We would like to thank you for joining us for the Victory Podcast today. Today's podcast is from April 6, 2014. We continue our study through the book of Mark with Pastor Trevor in Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 44. We're glad you joined us today. Welcome.
This particular miracle, the feeding of the 5,000, is the only miracle that's actually in all four Gospels. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. Just a little free trivia for you. Take with you. Did you ever see that on Jeopardy? You'll nail it. All right, so that's good. But it's in all four Gospels. So obviously it was something that was very memorable to everybody there. The stories rang out about this particular miracle. And the crazy thing is, this is the very height of Jesus' popularity. After this, everything goes downhill quickly for him. Many people believe that there were up to 20,000 people, 15 to 20,000 people gathered here at this particular site, because the Bible is very clear that the 5,000 were men, and I believe it's Matthew actually says, besides women and children. So there were 5,000 men besides women and children, and some people think there may have been up to 15 to 20,000 people. That's a big crowd. That's a big crowd together. That's the size of our entire town here, between 15 and 20,000 people. That's about the size of Hermiston, largest city in Eastern Oregon. Thank you very much. All right, so anyway, but you can imagine how big that would be in that particular day. And what happened was the disciples, way back up in verse number 7 of chapter 6, were sent out by Jesus to go 2 by 2 and to go perform miracles, cast out demons, heal the sick, and perform ministry, do ministry. And ministry's not easy work. Some of your work's way harder than physically, or way harder mentally and all this stuff. I get that. But ministry's also up there too, when you're dealing with people, when you're dealing with their heartaches, when you're dealing with their problems. The disciples had went out and done a lot of ministry work. They had healed, they went out and preached the gospel to people, and they were wore out. They came back and reported, and you can see that in verse number 30, the apostles returned to Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. And he said to them, "Come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while." Yeah. There will be 20,000 people there when you get there, but we'll chill. And but Jesus was so popular at the time. It was like, honestly, it was like the equivalent of the paparazzi today. Like where they have like spies tell them, okay, so-and-so's going to be at the such and such restaurant. And then, they all go there and they're trying to have a quiet, peaceful evening. And everybody who worships them wants to get in there and see what's going on, get a picture, get a response, something. Well, back then, Jesus was as big as a popular person as you could come up with at this time. A week later, he's not. Matter of fact, one message after this, he's not. We're going to talk about that later. Not today, don't worry. I'll get you out of here by lunch. But we're going to talk about that later. But right now, he's at the height of his popularity because the Israel are starting to see that maybe this Jesus is our hope. And by hope, they meant the one who would come and be king and conquer Rome and give them their land back. That's what they were hoping for. And they were starting to see that this guy was powerful. This guy could make things happen. And then when he does this miracle, they're just going to go off the charts. They're going to want to make him king, and he's going to say no, and he's going to preach a message that's going to dwindle that 20,000 down to about 100 to 120 people, which is, that's not, you're not going to write a book on church growth doing that, I always thought about writing a book about how to start a church and have it go for 10 years and maintain 30 people. I just didn't think it'd be that great a seller, I don't know, but Jesus says, okay, apostles, here's what we're going to do. You've all gone out. You're tired. You've had a hard time getting rest. You need rest. And by the way, we need rest. You need rest. Some of you burn the candles at both ends and you don't stop, and you can't stop seemingly. You need rest. You need rest. We can't just keep going and going and going. Our bodies aren't made like that. Their bodies weren't made like that. And Jesus recognized that and told them, hey, you need to come away to a desolate place and get some rest. I don't know if one of them went out and said, yeah, we're going to go away to such and such a place. And then word got around or whatever. But in the meantime, as they're traveling down through there, this giant crowd gathers. It says, for many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. So when they were there ministering, they were so busy, they didn't even have time to eat. You've all had those days, right? Maybe it wasn't ministering, but you had those days where you forgot to eat lunch because you were too busy. Anybody have that? I've had that. I've gone through days before and look back and be like, it's 6 o'clock, I haven't ate today. I didn't eat anything today. I've never forgot coffee yet, but I sometimes food, right? Because you get so busy and then you're like, I didn't even eat today. And Joy's like, that's not healthy. I know, I just forgot, And but they didn't even have time to eat. And they went away in the boat to a desolate place by themselves. Now, how good does that sentence sound? To go away in a boat by themselves and just rest, right? That sounds pretty dreamy to me. How many of you have been on a cruise before? Yeah, I didn't like the cruise. I'm just going to throw it out there. Open ocean, I don't care what they say about cruise ships. If you get motion sick, open ocean is open ocean. I don't care if you're in a raft or if you're in a giant cruise ship. It's still in this number, right? And here's what happened to us. Here's why I can never go on another cruise, ever, I don't think. We got upgraded. We started off with an ocean view. You know what that means on a cruise ship? You can see a lifeboat, and you can see a small tinge of water right underneath it through this little window about this big. That's where you start out. And Ken knows because he didn't get upgraded. We did for some reason. Hallelujah. But anyway, we end up getting upgraded like 3 times, and we end up with a balcony. There's no way I could ever do a cruise now without a balcony. There's no way on earth, It's like starting off, with a Mercedes as your first car. It's never getting better than that, so you might as well just forget it. Not that I know anything about that, but I'm assuming that's the way that is. But we got upgraded, but I got sick the whole time. I didn't have my sea legs, and then you're doing this number, and I didn't like it, but it still sounds pretty good. I like going out fishing. I like hopping in my boat, knowing I don't have anything on the agenda that day, and going out. I might do that tomorrow. Maybe. I didn't get my license. I probably can't do that tomorrow, legally. Anyway, but my father-in-law has a boat, and we like to go out, and when the best part's when you don't have an agenda, and you just like, I'm going to just relax. Turn off the cell phone, and just go. And that's probably how they were feeling. Like, whew, that sounds awesome. I'm tired. Well, here's what happened. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they ran over there on foot from all the towns and got there ahead of them. That has to be annoying. I'm just, honestly, I'll tell you, my job is, honestly, it's not that difficult 80% of the time. When all you guys are doing great, my job's great. Is that Jacob Neighbors? Please tell me that's Jacob Neighbors. That's gold right there. That's gold right there. All right. So anyway, see, you made me lose my train of thought, you jerk. All right. So anyway, job's easy. Yeah, when you guys are all doing good, not being like Jacob back there. When you're all doing good, my job's easy. And but when what happens is, it tends to happen that things happen in groups. And things start to happen, and honestly, there are times when you're so busy and you're just dealing with people, and you're dealing with problems, and you're dealing with relationships which are difficult, and then all of a sudden there's somebody comes in. We're on Main Street, and so things happen, and sometimes somebody comes in you don't know, and they need something, and honestly you're not in the mood, and you just do one of these like, are you serious right now? Of all the times in the world, are you serious? And it's so difficult to have any kind of joy in your heart and minister effectively when those things happen. And here they are trying to rest and getting away. Jesus' popularity is at such a height that 20,000 possible people run ahead of them in a boat. They see them going in a direction. They run ahead of them, and they go through a town stampede. And where are you going? Jesus is going to be in such and such. He's headed that way. Well, let's go too. And they all go, and they all gather, and by the time they're pulling in to the restful spot to relax a little bit, there are upwards of 20,000 people sitting there waiting on them to hear and see and hopefully catch a miracle or catch something cool from Jesus. Ugh. You know? So, oh yeah, I've already turned the page. There we go. And so they got there ahead of them. When he went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion on them. There's Jesus. That's the difference between Jesus and me, right? I'd be like, turn the boat around and go double time, you know, let's get out of here. But Jesus actually had compassion. You would be just like that too, because you know how it is. When you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're going through it, when you've dealt with people all day long and you're going to finally get some rest. And my father-in-law is probably more like Jesus than me, but his phone, he has this phone ringtone that's rocky. Dun 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 dun, and it's like uber loud, and so you'll be like getting ready to take a shot, like, you know, you'll be getting ready for your drive, and you'll fit in your backswing, bum 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 bum, you know, and it goes off, and it's like, what are you doing? But then he'll answer the phone. He'll answer the phone and do one of these, you know, like talking to the phone, and like he actually has compassion on people. I like that. I'm not sure how you get that, but it's a beautiful thing. But Jesus saw these people, and he's like, had compassion on them. I'm going to minister to them. They came all the way here, and that's just so hard sometimes. And I know the disciples were probably like, are you serious? But they went and ministered. And he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And, you know, we have a whole big world out there full of people who have needs and wants. And the truth is, a lot of times we don't have compassion on them because we don't see them as sheep without a shepherd. We don't see them as having a true, huge need in their life. We see them as being annoying to us at that particular moment. And maybe you're saying, I don't feel like that. You feel like that. Maybe that's the case. But confession's good for the soul. But you know, sometimes it's hard to see people and see their true need through the annoying thing that they're coming to you with, right? And we fail to see opportunities to minister oftentimes because we don't have this Christ-like compassion. So he comes in and he sees them as a sheep without a shepherd, and he began to teach them many things. We have a great Savior, don't we? We have a beautifully compassionate, loving shepherd who takes care of us, who keeps us in line, and who gently but beautifully, chastises us and brings us back into the fold, and he does all this stuff and for us, and he saw this group of 20,000 people who were like a sheep without a shepherd, and instead of saying, I'm too tired, he got out of the boat and he ministered to them, he loved them, and he taught them many things. That's beautiful, and that is so hard. This is one of the harder things you could ever do, I think, and Jesus did it. And so he taught them many things. And when it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, this is a desolate place, and the hour is now late. Send them away to go into the surrounding countryside and villages to buy themselves something to eat. And that's a reasonable response right there. You know, we're taking care of this group of people. Sounds like a committee decision to me. They got together. All right, it's getting late. What are we going to do? Jesus is still talking. These people are going to starve. Let's just get them out of here. And there may have been some, we came here to rest and we've been ministering all day. It's time to cut this meeting down. You all have been in those church services, right? You're like, maybe you're in one right now, I don't know, but you've all been in those church services where you're like, okay, how many hymns of Just As I Am can we possibly, I'll go forward if we can make this thing end right now, I don't know, but we've all been in those things where we're like, okay, we definitely can cut this off right now, or whatever it is. And the disciples, I think maybe they were feeling that, and they come in and say, okay, Jesus, we're being very compassionate, just like you. We want these people to get something to eat, and we're going to send them off into the countryside and villages to get something. And then Jesus comes back at them in the midst of this stress, in the midst of their tiredness, in the midst of their lack of rest, Jesus comes back at them with this command. He says, you give them something to eat. I'm sorry, what? I'm tired. Remember, we're on our restful, we're on our retreat right now. And now you're telling me to give them something to eat. We don't have. What am I going to do? And they start coming up with all these excuses. They said to them, shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat? Now, this is the equivalent of about a half year's salary. So they're saying, hey, what's our median income around here is like 45, 50. So let's take 25. You want us to take $25,000 and go get everybody something to eat? We don't have that, and we're tired. Stop it. Stop it. Let us sleep. Send them away. And so shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat? And he said to them, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. And we know from this that they go and check everybody. And Andrew happens to find one kid who has a lunch. Now, I'm not naive enough to believe that the one kid with the lunch was the only person that had food that day. Honestly. They're like, yeah, I've got my lunch, and you're not going to find out about it. Right? I mean, I would probably, that's probably why I think that's probably what I would do. But he found one kid who's like, yeah, here's my whole lunch. Here's everything. Here's what my mom gave me to eat on my way out the door to follow the crowd to see Jesus. My mom had the foresight enough to grab the brown bag and throw some leftovers in there and send me on my way with it. 2 small fish and 5 loaves of bread. Go ahead. And that kid said, here you go. And Andrew's like, thanks. Right? We got 20,000 people here. This should be perfect, And he goes back, and I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe he was uber spiritual about it. Maybe he's like, this is going to be plenty, son. Thank you. I don't know how he was doing, but I would have been like, awesome. Thanks for the brown paper bag full of food. And so anyway, he says, go and see. And when they had found out, Andrew went. This kid came out, and this kid said, you can have it all. He didn't keep, as far as we know, according to the language of Scripture, he gave his all. He gave every bit that he had, and I believe there were other people there that had food, but nobody else gave anything. But this kid said, here it is. And that's a big part of the story, but he said, here it is. And Andrew brings it back, and when they had found out, he said, we have 5 loaves and 2 small fish. I've caught small fish before. Matter of fact, it's pretty much what I catch. And I've caught small fish before, and 2 small fish won't feed me. Right? 2 small fish is not that many fish, not that much fish. It's like a 1-person meal. This is a 1-kid lunch. This is a snack pack. This is you ever have those? Minus the drink. I mean it's you kind of do it yourself. You got 2 little fish, bread. I'm going to make me a couple sandwiches, and I have 1 piece of bread left throughout the day. Perfect. It's 1 kid's lunch. And he brings it to him, and he says, yeah, Jesus, we've got 5 loaves and 2 fish. Then he commanded them all to sit down in groups on the green grass. The other thing that they say, in another passage of Scripture, Andrew comes up to Jesus and he says, we've got 5 loaves and 2 fish. He said, but what are they among so many? What are they among so many? And you know what? Nothing. Nothing. This is such a beautiful story because we realize in this story that Jesus is not bound by the mathematics and the theories and the laws that govern the universe do not apply to the creator of the universe. He created them. He's outside of them. We don't depend on them alone. We depend on the one who controls them and created them. Therefore, that means that regardless of my ability to exist in this world and whatever the world would tell me my capacity is, which the ceiling's pretty low, it doesn't matter because the one who if I give myself to Jesus, he controls everything and he can take from nothing and make something, and he can take from this life that is full of strife and heartache and difficulty and sin, and he can take this life and do so much more with it than I could ever do by myself. That little boy sounded to me like he was a very compassionate kid that gave up his lunch. Would you agree with that? Very compassionate kid. But you know what? He probably would have shared with those around him if they'd asked him. And he probably could have made that bread. There's 7 pieces of food there. If he cuts all of them in half, he could have helped about 14, 15, maybe even 20 people to get a little bite and sustain them until they could get home. If he'd have done it himself. You know what? If we try to maximize our lives ourselves, our ceiling's not very high. We may be able to be very compassionate. We may be able to help some people, but we cannot do what Jesus can do if we just say, you know what? I'm not going to try this. I'm just going to give it to you, Jesus. You do whatever you want to do, and he can take our little lives and feed a multitude with him in us. Right? That's the beauty of this story. You know, I titled it 5 + 2 = 5,000. I don't know if you knew that, but that's not true. Unless Jesus is doing the math. Because Jesus can make it happen. Right? So, he says, and when they found out, it said 5 and 2 small fish. What are these among so many? Then he commanded them to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups by hundreds and by 50s. And so they are all in their little groups. And that's a lot of groups. But there's tons of groups down there. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all. Oh, that's not even counting the loaves, right? Those 2 small fish he divided among all 15 to 20,000 people. You know why? Because Jesus is the creator of fish. He's the creator of thermodynamics. He's the creator of mathematics. He set the world into motion and made it ruled by these truths, and yet he transcends these truths so that he can come in and he can do whatever he wants because he's the creator, and that's the one who loves us. That's the one who cares for us. That's the one who says, it doesn't matter what your circumstance looks like now. It doesn't matter what your billfold looks like now. It doesn't matter what your influence looks like now. None of that matters because I'm the one in control. You trust me, not you. Your problem is you trust you. My problem is I trust me. What we need is to trust and give our lives to Jesus Christ, and he can do whatever with us, right? And so you have him sitting down, and he divides the 2 fish among them all, and they all ate. And here's the thing. Honestly, if we had a thin enough knife and enough foresight, we could take 5 loaves and 2 small fish and cut it up into 20,000 pieces. We could do it. They wouldn't be very big, and we could spread it out, and we could say everybody ate. Everybody ate, right? It's true, you know. Everybody ate off 5 loaves. But here's the thing: they all ate, and here's the kicker: they were satisfied. They were full. They ate till they couldn't eat anymore. It sounds like that's going on right now. But they ate until they couldn't eat anymore. Think about that. With that little bit of food, Jesus took it. He broke it. He spread it out. And so they ate not just a little taste, not just a little fraction, not just a little pinch. You know? Every time I say pinch, I think of snuff. Yeah, I know none of you do that. But a little pinch between your cheek and gum, right? So they took a little touch, a little bit of food, and made it feed so many people that they were absolutely stuffed. I can't have it anymore. Me and Joy ate at Outback the other day. How many of you are Outback fans? Huh? Any Outback fans here? Yeah. Bloomin' Onion. Anybody speaking anybody's language here? I did not realize how horrible I would feel after I ate a whole blooming onion with my wife. I mean, I was so hungry when we went in there. And when we left there, I honestly did not care if I ever saw another morsel of food in my life. It was a horrible trip home. It was a long trip home. I was speeding. I mean, it was horrible. I was in a bad way. You know, it was just one blooming onion. I don't understand what the problem was. When you get down to the bottom of it, and it's like all the breading's all gooey and stuff, and you're just like, ugh, you know, you're licking it off the plate. I had regrets. I'll admit it. I had regrets. But man, it was delicious. And I think Joy had like a salad and a steak. I had that and a burger. I was like, but anyway, you ate it, and that's what they were like. Man, I'm stuffed. I don't care. I can't have any more. I'm done. I'm full. Where'd you get all that food? 5 loaves, 2 small fish. Awesome. Because our God is not bound by what we're bound by. He's the creator of those things. So he takes them. He feeds them. And here's the other thing. They were satisfied, and they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of the fish. Now, well, and then the last part, and those who ate the loaves were 5,000 men, not counting women and children. Here's the funny part. Have you ever wondered why there was 12 baskets left over? I don't know the answer. But I'm just thinking, I think Jesus has got a interesting, it's just funny the way he teaches lessons. These disciples were doubting Jesus. The disciples were like, yeah, we got 5 loaves and 2 small fish. What are we going to do? Go spend $25,000 to buy food for them? We're going to do that? So Jesus is like, well, how many do we have? And they bring them back. And I'm guessing the mood there was a little somber when all they got back was 5 loaves and 2 small fish. And then Jesus feeds them all so much that they're satisfied. And then they gather up, and there's exactly 12 baskets full of food left over. And he's probably like, hey, disciples, come here. All 12 of you, go get a basket and bring it here. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the case. But that's what I just wonder if that wasn't the reason. And so they gather up these 12 baskets. Now, what does this say to us today? What does it say to us today? One thing, we don't have to worry about our provision. You don't have to worry about your provision. Jesus will take care of you. If you're his, he will take care of you. If you're not his, he has what we call common grace, and he takes care of people. I mean, some people, bad things happen to people. We get that. But if we're his provision extends not just here on earth, but even if something bad happens to us when we die, his provision extends bountifully past death. So much so that death stops to become something to fear and something to embrace. I'm scared to die. Don't get me. I just am. I'll be honest. There's some people that are like, I'm not scared to die. I can't wait to get to heaven. Yeah, I want it to be quick and not hurt. Where I'm like, hey, and then I'm in heaven. That would be all right. That'd be all right. But that's not always how it is, and it's a little scary. And I don't know what it's like, and none of us do. Those are scary, scary moments. But here's the thing. I'm not worried about what's going to happen afterwards, because I know I'm taken care of. Your provision is taken care of in Christ. He will take care of you. Here's the other thing. God's not bound. And it doesn't matter how beat up you are, how down you are, how little you think you are, or how much of a lack of influence you think you have, or how much you think God could never use you. Not true at all. Not true at all. Because God took this little boy's lunch that was wholly given to him, and he took that little tiny lunch, a Lunchable, if you will. He took that thing, and he broke it up, and he fed 20,000 people till they were full. Think of that. You know what Jesus can do with you? Whatever he wants to do with you. And it'll be huge, and it'll be big. It might not be this dramatic. It might be behind the scenes, but it'll be something that you could never do by yourself, because God is the miracle worker, and he can take your little life and my little life and take it and break it and bless it and use it to feed a multitude. You say, well, you don't know what I've done in my past. I don't know. Listen, Jesus saved you not because you hadn't done anything in your past, but because your past was so bad that you couldn't save yourself. That's all of us. We're all sinners. We're all anti-Christ before we come to God, before he opens our eyes to the truth of him through Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter what you've done in your past. It doesn't matter, because God's forgiveness runs complete, it runs true, and it runs full. And you need to just say, Jesus, I'm not much. I'm just like those 5 loaves and those 2 small fish. And I'm going to say, here you go, God. Here's this little life. And here's this, 5'6". I'm kind of one of those like fat, skinny guys right now, and I just don't like that. And I'm like, I'm trying to lose weight. I really am. Not really. I need to start though. But I'm just kind of this normal guy, bald, froggy voice, thinks he's funny and talks way too much, and amen. But anyway, there's not much here. There's not much here. It's flawed. It's bad. It's terrible. There's anger issues. There's try being my size and not coming out of life with a little bit of a Napoleon complex. You go ahead, and you have that, and you're always trying to prove yourself, and your identity's wrapped up. It's difficult sometimes, and we can all relate. We can all relate. But guess what? If we just say here, God can even use this, and if God can even use this, God can sure use you. So what we can take from this is just be encouraged. I don't care what you've gone through, what it looks like, how bad it seems, how massive the cracks are in your life, how big you think, or how bad you think everybody thinks of you. None of that matters. Just say, God, you know what? I can't do anything about the past, but all I can do right now is say, I'm yours. Take me, do whatever you want with me, and watch God bless, break, and change lives because of one little life given to him. What if a whole room full of people did it? You know? You say, well, we'd have 20,000 people in church. Nah, we don't want 20,000 people in church. Maybe other churches, not here. You know what? What we want everybody in this community to hear the gospel and to know Jesus, because it's not about victory. It's about Jesus, right? It's not about having the biggest church in town. It's about having the biggest Savior in town, right? And so let's do that. Let's get out there and let's just say, you know what? Here you go, Jesus. I'm not much, but I'm yours, and you're everything, and that's all that matters. 5 + 2 = 7 normally, but with Jesus, it can equal 5,000. You know what's sad? I had to stop and think what 5 + 2 equaled there. I about said 10. I was like, whew, all right. So anyway, like I'm saying, if God can use this, God can use anything, right? And you guys are way ahead of the game already as far as that's concerned. So just get out there and say yes to Christ and see what he'll do with just a bunch of normal people dedicated and loving him.
We would like to thank you for joining us for the Victory Podcast today. This podcast is a ministry of Victory Baptist Church in Hermiston, Oregon. You can find us at 193 East Main Street in Hermiston, Oregon, 97838, or on the web at yourvictory.org.